Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and welcome to This Week in WoW for the week of September 16th. Before we get started, let's thank the Patreon supporters. We have Mario Casillas, RetPallyRocks, Nick Rada, Peter Burnham, RetSpecOps, and our newest member, Joe Glocks. Going to have to rewrite the name smaller here soon. Thank you guys so much for that support. I very much appreciate it. It excites me every time somebody joins, whether it's a paid support or just somebody just joining on the free one. It's always exciting. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in the game this week. There's not a ton going on in retail, but we will go through what there is to talk about. This week we do have the pet battle bonus event. Again, I always shout it out. It's not really my thing, but people enjoy it. There is a whole community inside the game that does pet battles. We also have PvP Brawl Packed House. I actually don't even know what this one is. Is this new? I'm not sure. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe it's just been so long, but I can't think of what that one is. I thought I've done all of them before, but maybe not. We also have the War Within Dungeon event. So this one's always worth doing, usually at least on alt. So you have to do like 4 or 5 mythic dungeons. I think you get a piece of like heroic loot, something like that. It's usually pretty powerful on alts. It also could, randomly roll a heroic item. For example, like the boots, right? So the special boots from the raid, like I only have them on champion track, I think from the normal version of the raid, but this item could just roll into those boots, right? So it's like a vault chance at getting the boots on heroic if you don't have a good version of the boots yet. Obviously they're, fairly powerful boots to have to, go with your cloak. Later on in the week, we do have Pirates Day going on. Nothing huge there. Just a little mini event. You go to Booty Bay or whatever, I believe is where you go for that. And then next week we do a Brewfest. We're not going to get into that because that's next week. But we do a Brewfest coming up, which I'm excited for. Brewfest is, for whatever, I think it's just because I like to play dwarf characters and stuff. I just have like something with the dwarven stuff that I like a lot, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, other than that, there's not almost anything going on. I waited extra long. I always record these on Monday. As you can see, it's highlighted on Monday here to record this for the next day. And I waited until, any patch notes could possibly be out. There was no news on Monday whatsoever. And it's been a pretty dry week of news in general for the game on retail here. So there's not a ton to talk about. Basically, all that's going on in retail right now, people are pushing keys a little bit higher. So they're getting up to the plus 20s now in the keystones. Heroic raid is getting a little bit easier to do. Demencius is becoming easier to pug, like on heroic for AOTC. We're kind of at that stage of the thing. As we get closer to that 0.5 patch, to the turbo boost, to the Legion remix, which is what we're going to probably spend most of the rest of this video talking about, because that's about the only thing that there's been any news developing on whatsoever, especially for the people that spend a lot of time on the PTR testing it out, putting that news out. It hasn't been from Blizzard, it's been from like PTR content creators putting that stuff out about Legion remix. So other than that, there hasn't been a ton going on. That's what's going on in the game right now, is people are completing their their stuff for the season, waiting for that turbo boost, and then maybe pushing some more stuff. But that's kind of where we are right now in retail. As far as, there's pretty much nothing to talk about in Classic. Classic Mop kind of was, about what I expected it would be. Not super popular. There's still a niche group playing Classic Mop for sure. Not to hate on them at all, but it's definitely not as popular as any of the other ones, even Cataclysm, and Cataclysm wasn't very popular either, honestly. So not much to talk about there, but let's go ahead and talk about Legion Remix before we finish up the video. So Legion Remix, I haven't been talking about it too much in my videos because I don't do a ton of PTR work, and Blizzard hasn't been putting out a ton of stuff on it. So when Blizzard's done updates about it, I've maybe made a video, like 1 or 2 videos about it. But a lot of his stuff is coming from PTR content creators. So content creators that basically spend their entire time on PTR making videos for what's coming next, right? And it's a very huge market of views, by the way. And so I've been following along with those, though, and keeping track of, what's going on. And so if you aren't keeping track of that, Legion Remix, when it first came out, it was set to come out in a little bit different way than Mop Remix. It was not going to be a cut and paste. It was going to be a different version of it, and it still kind of is, right? So there's a thing where if you've played like Diablo or whatever, and you have the different world trees or something it's called, like, or different modes basically of what the world's like. So like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Basically, they have that for this mop version. And that was like one of the big things that's going to be. So you can eventually fight stuff in the world that's super hard and gives you more rewards and stuff, right? The biggest problem is they did not lean into the power acquisition that you had in mop. So, you know, by the end of mop remix, or even like halfway through it, there was a lot of people that had like basically max power. You were just destroying everything. If you got even one of these people in your mythic raid, they would just kill everything for you, essentially. And it was just super powerful. I never even got quite that powerful, but I got to the power to where if I was in the raid, it was probably going to be successful, essentially. Because, you know, you have people of all skills and all gear levels and stuff with this super high variance of gear power. And I got strong enough to where if I was in the raid, it was probably going to be successful, but not to the point where I could just one-shot everything myself. And so they were kind of going to go away from that. But that was one of the things that made it super popular. And honestly, there was a lot of community members that were just helping people out. They loved grinding it. They grinded to this max power, you know, and then they would just help other people out and get their stuff. And that was really cool as well, I thought. So they actually went back to that now. So one of the latest things in the PTR is your power skills ridiculously now. There's people soloing, I don't know if it was plus 30 or plus 40 mythic keystones. So you can do mythic keystones, you can just do them solo with this gear and Legion remix, right? And people are soloing like plus 30s, which is very cool, by the way. It's almost like the idea of Torghast, right? Like infinitely scaling the keys while you infinitely scale your power. So that's actually really cool. I'm probably going to play a decent amount of it, and I'll play Paladin, Ret Paladin on there, just in case I, you know, want to make any videos or anything like that. But, yeah, it looks a lot cooler now, a lot more fun. So I'm very glad Blizzard listened to it. So your power scales nearly infinitely, and then you can just do the stuff at nearly infinite rate. Now with this new power, people were soloing the mythic raids, like I said, soloing high keystone dungeons, and it just looks a lot more cool and a lot more fun than what it previously was going to look like. It was still going to be interesting with the whole tiers of the world or whatever, but now it looks a lot more fun. So I am actually very hyped for this. Legion is when I first started playing Ret Paladin, so some of my early videos are very bad, I will say that, like most people who make content. But you know, you could go back to some of my Legion videos. And, you know, I was just starting out. I just started playing Ret Paladin as well. And so it was rough back then. I didn't really start anything of what's kind of what my channel is now until like the end of BFA, and then into Shadowlands is like when I was like, okay, now I know what I'm doing, which is a terrible time to start, by the way, but like the very end of BFA. But so my Legion stuff is really rough, but that's when I started. And so you know, I'm very excited about that and going back and doing some of the stuff. And I didn't do a ton of Mythic Keystones anyways back then, because it was new and I was against Mythic Keystones. I'm like an old curmudgeon. Now, of course, I do tons of them, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And if it is as fun as it appears to be on the PTR, then I will probably have fun doing it, and I will make Ret Paladin content for it and everything. And hopefully, you know, what I'm hoping is, even though they're not the best quality, that some of my old Legion videos might still be relevant for that time, and you could actually, when someone searches how to do something, you know, maybe my video will pop up, and you know, then we have like the double dipping there, I guess you could say. So yeah, but super good news. But the long and short of it is super good news looking for Legion Remix if you are looking forward to that. I had tons of fun in the mop remix. I didn't have as much fun as some other people who like continued playing it, but I played until I was super powerful, could kill everything. It was fun, at least for me. So we should see that again. But that'll be it for this one. Next week we'll have at least a little bit more to talk about, at least with Brewfest, and then hopefully some more notes and stuff as well. What's actually going on in retail. Just not a lot right now. So as always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. That helps me out the most. If you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to check out the Patreon at least. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.